In this video, I'll just show some of the basics to be able to um, get models from Max into the UDK and so they snap to the grid properly. So from a clean scene, first thing, need to set up your grid. By default, Max will be using a 10 grid spacing. You obviously need any power of 2 number. I usually go with 16, that's a good middle ground. The number you use there can be related to the model you're going to be doing, but for the sake of this video I'm just going to use 16. So let's say that you ended up modeling a whole bunch of stuff off into the distance away from the zero. The thing that you need to make sure of obviously is that it's model to grid. So if it's not model to grid, you'll actually have to go in and at least snap the model to grid. So you'll definitely have to go and take the verts and just like, you know, whatever, just like having to put stuff in the UDK on the grid, you have to at least make sure your model is on the grid to begin with here. So the second thing that you need to make sure for the model to be able to snap on the grid in the UDK is, or actually the third thing, first thing is your grid size, second thing is your model needs to be snapped on the grid, and your third thing is the pivot point needs to be snapped on the grid as well. So I'm going to effect pivot only, and yeah, usually for models like wall models or anything like that, you can try and keep it down in the corner so it's easy to refit it. Like if you have to fit this model into a slightly bigger or smaller gap, it's easy to calculate you know, the length of it and snap it perfectly back on the grid in the UDK. So that's pretty much what needs to happen there. And then obviously before you actually export the thing, so it's off there in the world. So let's say you model this whole room or whatever. So you know, let's pretend there's a whole thing modeled. So the whole thing is made up of this one piece. You only take this one, make sure the pivot is correct on it, move it to 0, and then this is what you export. So those are the basic steps of it, and this counts for pretty much any model that you want to be able to get into the UDK on the grid. So even if you had a model that is you know, maybe a corner section, and even if it had a round corner on it, so you know, let's say even it's got a round corner on it. So the important part, that piece there needs to be on grid, and this piece here needs to be on grid, and you know, the pivot point needs to be on grid. So if the pivot point wasn't over there, you know, in all reality, you can put the pivot point there if you wanted to. You know, you can put the pivot point there if you wanted to, as long as it's on grid. You know, it just obviously makes some common sense that you put it somewhere on the model, just to keep things simple. And yeah, obviously I usually keep it at the bottom. I mean, you can have it more centered or whatever, but what you can't do is go center to object and you'll see why, because now it's not on the grid anymore. And even though you can tell by where it's sitting here, it's probably sitting on the 8. Like if my grid was set to 8, it'll most likely be sitting on 8, which is fine if you were modeling on 8, but keeping your model and your pivot point on the same grid is just a good way to go about it. So you know what to expect when you get to the UDK. So move that over to 0, and now can export those two pieces, and they will fit perfectly together in the UDK, just like they will in Max. Like that one will go there. And it'll go there. So that's the idea. Okay, so